Today, we're talking about wireless EV charging. Everybody seems to be talking about this, but is this the future of EV charging or is it more of a gimmick? Today, I'll give you the four main pros and four cons of wireless EV charging so you can decide for yourself if the hype is real. Okay, first, let's talk about how it works. Wireless EV charging is also called inductive charging because it uses electromagnetic fields to transfer energy from a charging pad on the ground to a receiver that's installed underneath your vehicle. So there's no cables, no plugs. You just park over the charging pad and your car starts charging. Sounds pretty convenient, right? Okay, so let's talk about the four main positives. So the first one, as we just touched on, is ultimate convenience. It won't be much different from what we're currently doing right now. So you just get home after a long day of work and pull into your parking spot and just leave your car. You wouldn't have to fumble around with any charging cables and plug in manually. That's clearly the biggest positive, but there are a few more. And the second one is no maintenance. So no cables means less wear and tear on both the charger and your car's charging port. That means just one less thing to maintain or replace. And the third one is safety. Because it's all done wirelessly, there's no risk of tripping over any cords or dealing with any damaged cables. Plus, most systems have built-in safety measures to shut off if something's blocking the pad. And the fourth one is pretty cool, and it's smart integration. So as we move forward to the future, more buildings and homes will become smart. And this means that the wireless EV charging can just tie into all this. Okay, sounds pretty amazing, right? But the technology is not perfect. So let's talk about the negatives. And there are four main negatives that I want to point out. These are the main drawbacks. The first one, and it's a pretty big deal, and it's the cost. So the cost of installing wireless charging is much more expensive than the traditional plug-in chargers. The charging pad, the car modifications, and all the install add up pretty quickly. The second one is compatibility. So especially right now, not all EVs support wireless charging. And even for compatible cars, the technology often requires an expensive retrofit, mostly for the pads and the receiver. And the third one, which is a pretty big deal, is charging speed. So you'll sometimes hear people complaining that EV charging is slow. Well, wireless EV charging is even slower. And this is because wireless charging is less efficient than wired charging. More of the energy is lost during the transfer process, which can also lead to slightly higher electricity bills and longer time to fully charge your car. But the fourth one is the main one that I want to point out, and it's kind of what gave me the idea for this video. And with wireless charging, there's no bidirectional charging. And by bidirectional charging, I mean there's no vehicle to grid compatibility. One of my favorite things about EV charging is not only can EVs take electricity from the grid, but they can also give electricity back to the grid. And this is called bidirectional charging or vehicle to grid technology. So let's say there's a blackout and your home loses power. You can actually use your EV to power your home. But you know me, I like money. So one of the things that I'm most excited about in the future that's supposed to be on the horizon is being able to sell electricity back to the grid. So a bunch of car companies have come together and created something called ChargeScape, which I plan to make a video on in the future. And one of the features of ChargeScape is the ability for EV owners to sell excess energy back to their local utility provider. Now, we're not there yet, but I like the idea of this. And with wireless charging, I'm concerned that feature won't be available. So bottom line is, I think wireless charging is pretty amazing and I'm excited to see how it develops, but I still think there's a couple bugs to work out. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you're wondering who I am or why I care, my name's Trevor and I helped launch 2 successful EV charging startups, and now I make videos on how it works. And I'd love if you were to subscribe to the channel and keep following the journey. Thanks so much for checking in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.